The Attic Stage by John Addington Symonds. The treatment of paiderastia upon the Attic stage requires separate considerations. Nothing proves the popular acceptance and national approval of Greek love more forcible to modern minds than the fact that the tragedians like Aeschylus and Sophocles made it the subject of their dramas. From a notice in Athenaeus, it appears that Stesichorus, who first gave dramatic form to lyric poetry, composed interludes upon paiderastic subjects. But of these it is impossible to speak, since their very titles have been lost. What immediately follows in the narrative of Athenaeus will serve as text for what I have to say upon this topic. And Aeschylus, that mighty poet, and Sophocles brought masculine loves into the theatre through their tragedies, before some are wont to call tragedy a paiderast, and the spectators welcome such. Nothing, unfortunately, remains of the plays which justified this language but a few fragments cited by Aristophanes, Plutarch, Lucian, and Athenaeus. To examine these will be the business of this section. The tragedy of the Myrmidones, which formed part of a trilogy by Aeschylus upon the legend of Achilles, must have been popular at Athens, for Aristophanes quotes it no less than 4 times, twice in the Frogs, once in the Birds, and once in the Ecclesianuese. We can reconstruct its general plan from the lines which have come down to us on the authority of the writers above mentioned. The play opened with an anaphestic speech of a chorus composed of the clansmen of Achilles, who upbraided him for staying idle in his tent while the Achaeans suffered at the hands of Hector. Achilles replied with the metaphor of an eagle stricken by an arrow winged from one of his own feathers. When the embassy of Phoenix arrived and Patroclus was sent forth to battle, Achilles meanwhile engaged in a game of dice, and while he was thus employed, Antilochus entered with the news of the death of Patroclus. The next fragment brings the whole scene vividly before our eyes. Wail for me, Antilochus, rather than for the dead man, for me, Achilles, who still live. After this the corpse of Patroclus was brought upon the stage, and the son of Pholus put forth a lamentation over his friend. The ference of Achilles on this occasion was very celebrated among the ancients. One passage of unmeasurable passion which described the love which subsided between the two heroes has been quoted with varieties of reading by Lucian, Plutarch, and Athenaeus. Lucian says, Achilles, bewailing the death of Patroclus with unhusbanded passion, broke forth into the truth and self-abandonment to woe. Athenaeus gives the text as follows: Hadst thou no reference for the unsullied howdiness of figs, although ungrateful for the showers of kisses given? What we have here chiefly to notice is the change which the tale of Achilles had undergone since Homer. Homer represented Patroclus as older in years than the son of Peleus, but inferior to him in station, nor did he hint which of the friends was the Erastus of the other. That view of their comradeship had not occurred to him. Aeschylus makes Achilles the lover, and for this distortion of a Homeric legend he was severely criticized by Plato. At the same time, as the 2 lines quoted from the Phrynos prove, he treated their affection from the point of view of post-Homeric paiderastia. Sophocles also wrote a play upon the legend of Achilles, which bears for its title Achilles Loves. Very little is left of his drama, but Hesychius has preserved one phrase which illustrates the Greek notion that love was an effluence from the beloved person through the eyes into the lover's soul, while Sturbius quotes the beautiful simile by which love is compared to a piece of ice held in the hand by children. Another play of Sophocles, the Neop, is alluded to by Plutarch and by Athenaeus for the paiderastia which it contained. Plutarch's words are these: When the children of Neop and Sophocles are being pierced and dying, one of them cries out, appealing to no other rescuer or ally than his lover, Ho, comrade, up and aid me. Finally, Athenaeus quotes a single line from the Colchian woman of Sophocles, which alludes to Ganymede and runs as follows: Inflaming with his thighs the royalty of Zeus. Whether Euripides treated paiderastia directly in any of his plays is not quite certain. While the title Chrysippus and one fragment preserved from the tragedy, nature constrains me though I have sound judgment. justify us in believing that he made the crime of Laius his subject. It may be added that a passage in Cicero confirms this belief. The title of another tragedy, Periphos, seems in like manner to point at friendship, but a beautiful quotation from the Dictus sufficiently indicates the high moral tone assumed by Euphides in treating of Greek love, and runs as follows: "He was my friend, and never may love lead me to folly nor to Cupris. There is in truth another kind of love for the soul, righteous, temperate, and good. Surely men ought to have made this law, that only the temperate and chaste should love and send Cupris, daughter of Zeus, a begging." The philosophic ideal of comradeship is here vitalized by the dramatic vigor of a poet, nor has the Hellenic conception of pure affection for a soul just, upright, temperate, and good been elsewhere more pithily expressed. The Euphidean conception of friendship, it may further be observed, is nobly personified in Pyrrhus, who plays a generous and self-devoted part in the three tragedies of Electra, Orestes, and Iphigenia in Taurus. Having collected these notices of tragedies which dealt with boy love, it may be well to add a word upon comedies in the same relation. We hear of a Peidike by Sophron, a Mytholikoi by the older Cretinus, a Viphae by Ampolis, in which Alcibiades and the society were satirized. Pederastus is the title of plays by Diphilus and Antiphanes, Ganymedes of plays of Alcaeus, Antiphanes, and Eubulus. What has been quoted from Aeschylus and Sophocles sufficiently establishes the fact that Pederastia was publicly received with approbation on the tragic stage. We should make us cautious in rejecting the stories which are told about the love adventures of Sophocles. Athenaeus calls him a lover of lads. Nor is it strange if, in the age of Pericles, and while he was producing the Achilles loves, he should have shared the taste of which his race approved. At this point it may be as well to mention a few illustrious names which, to the student of Greek art and literature, are indissolubly connected with Pederastia. Parmenides, whose life, like that of Pythagoras, was accounted peculiarly holy, loved his pupil Zeno. Perfidius loved Pantarchus, a youth of Elis, and carved his portrait in the figure of a victorious athlete at the foot of the Olympian Zeus. Euphides is said to have loved the adult Agathian Lysias, Musthenes, and Aeschines, orators whose conduct was open to the most searching censor of malicious criticism, did not scruple to avow their love. Socrates described his philosophy as the science of erotics. Plato defined the highest form of human existence to be philosophy together with Pederastia, and composed the celebrated epigrams in Esther and in African. This list might be indefinitely lengthened.